Welcome back. I'm talking to Ben Emlyn-Jones, who was sacked from his job as a hospital porter for posting fairly harmless videos up onto his blog website. Now, on the 6th of January, you were then called back after a few months of you were on full pay, you were suspended, so Christmas went by, and then you had this hearing on the 6th of January, and it was in front of 6 officers of the trust. Is that right?
Yes.
So this was to decide finally whether you were going to be sacked or not.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened there. Yeah.
Well, I basically had a decision to make. I had to decide what line of defence I was going to take. Now, my shop steward had come around to my way of thinking after he saw the case dossier, and he saw the newspaper article was actually included in the case dossier. But he was saying to me, and several other people advised me, I asked informal advice from other people, including a man who was in the UFO investigation movement, you know, what I should be doing. Now, they advised me to address these allegations directly and attempt to cooperate with management.
So, in other words, remove and change your blog website.
Yeah, I would negotiate with them in a way that I would change the outlook of Panwell.
What about if you'd just removed all references to your work? In other words, took off all of the images of you in your uniform and all references to the word hospital porter, but left the microchip Muslim and the David Icke thing and all the other things that there seemed to be, to me, I don't see how they can complain about that, because it's satire, it's political comment, and everyone's entitled to free speech. At least last time I looked,
supposedly
are. Right. So I don't see how they can possibly ask you to remove that material. I can maybe a very weak case for you attaching it to your job, but I'm not an employment lawyer, so I wouldn't even know whether they've got a case there. But so you weren't prepared to remove the word hospital porter.
No.
Just say why.
Well, firstly, I mean, if I had to make a decision, and I decided that on balance of evidence, I thought they were trying to lure me into a position where they could basically get me to cooperate and remove a large proportion of what I'd already done.
Right. And
basically, Panmo would basically have his wings clipped, because, you know, under their complaint, under their gripe they had with me, you know, when it comes to removing references to hospital and portering, that's 99% of what I've done, and it could have been.
Well, it isn't, Ben, is it? It isn't. It's not. You're not. That's the name of the site, but it's. You do occasionally refer to the fact that that's what you are, but it wouldn't. It's not. That's really not the point of your website, is it? The hospital portering.
Not completely.
It's about the issues that you're concerned with.
But I mean, they were. From what I felt was going on, was they were trying to get me into a position where I was willing to negotiate changes.
Right. Okay. Now, and you weren't prepared to do
any changes. On the balance of evidence, I decided it was not a wise course of action, because I don't think the harassment against me would have ended. Right. And I think what you're saying is true up to a point, in that it's not the main point of what I do. However, you know, under the definition of references to hospitals and portering, it could include where I say hospital porters' pride and dignity, stop the New World Order, which is my catchphrase.
Yeah, it is.
Now, if I wanted to remove all the videos where I say that, that's over 90% of them.
Yeah.
You know, they could have got into a position like that, and I think, you know, the reason I was suspended in the first place, I should make this point, is the reason I was suspended in the first place, it doesn't fit into anything in the disciplinary handbook. So one reason would be to try and emotionally traumatise me. This is what torturers do. They don't when they take you in for torturing, they lock you up in a cell and leave you to think about it for a while. Yeah. And I suspect this might have been what they wanted to do to me. And they were hoping to get me in a position where I was a nervous wreck and I was more malleable.
So anyway, you weren't prepared to change the website, so therefore they sacked you.
Well, then they went into the disciplinary hearing. I went to the disciplinary hearing. They then said they went through. The prosecution officer went through the management's case against me, and I was asked to refute it. I basically chose my line of defence, which was that these allegations against me were bogus, and that therefore
So the email was bogus. So
Yeah.
it'd been sent maliciously. It hadn't
Yeah.
been sent by a genuine member of the public. So
Yeah.
you were saying you'd been set up.
Yeah, for the reasons I've been saying, I consider the whole case against me was bogus, and I think that I was being set up, and they wanted me out for other reasons, which was my appearance in the media.
Right.
The response to this was a lot of obfuscation. The chairman of the committee said, for instance, when I finished reading out my case, the chairman of the committee says, "Well, are you going to make a defence against these allegations?" And I said, "This is my defence." And he replied, "No, this is not a defence. This is a reason why you can't give a defence."
Right.
And they said, for instance, they said, it's not when I mentioned the coincidental nature of this complaint, so-called, had emerged after I appeared in the newspaper. He replied, "It's not our job to speculate on how the timing of this complaint mimics or matches other events within your life. Our job is simply to investigate the complaint that's been made."
Right.
And then I said that I didn't think the email of complaint sounded genuine. I mean, letters of complaint from members of the public usually are different in tone. They're a lot more long-winded. Mm-hmm. He said, "It's not our job to speculate on the style or tone of the complaint made. Our job is simply to investigate the complaint made. The complaint has been made, and we're investigating it." Mm-hmm. And it was rather a conversation where I felt I was talking to someone who was basically just rubber stamping a party line.
Let's just consider that if you had bog standard party political type views, like let's say you were a communist or you were a socialist or a capitalist or what have you, and you supported a particular party, you don't think that, and you were very vocal and you had a blog and all the rest of it, you don't think that would be a problem to them?
I don't think so, because it's not been a problem with many other people who are NHS servicemen but also express very, very staunch conventionally political beliefs. There are, you can be almost anything you want within conventional political gamut.
Right.
For instance, Marxism, you can be a nationalist, you can be
Yeah.
a Tory. I mean, there are people like Dr. Evan Harris, who used to be an MP. He's now still politically active, and he is a doctor, and he openly says, "I'm a doctor at a hospital." Mm-hmm. And he openly says that. There's Dr. Sarah Wollaston in South Devon, who's an MP. She's a practicing GP. Mm-hmm. Now, they don't object to that.
Now, one thing you said to me, Ben, it was that you were told that there was nobody from within the hospital itself was party to this complaint.
That's right.
So it's come from outside. The actual anonymous complaint has come from outside,
Yeah.
and then the board of governors, who you said were directly picked by government. Is that right?
Yes, they're appointed. They're basically the primary care trusts are basically divisions of the Department of Health, and
Right.
the Department of Health appoints these officers to run the various hospitals.
I'm going to get this right. The governor, this panel of 6 officers that interviewed you, they are selected by some government means.
That's right. Yes.
So, and they were the people who effectively sacked you. So you don't think anyone in the hospital itself, the actual workers, had a problem with it?
No, in fact, they admitted that. That it was.
So we can then assume then it's come from a high level,
Yes.
albeit we don't know where the initial complaints come from, and it could have come from anywhere.
Anywhere outside the hospital.
So it seems to me that this is politically motivated. Now, if we just expand on this, the NHS is the biggest employer in the UK. I don't know how many it employs, but and you are probably, in terms of these controversial subjects, 9/11, 7/7, and all the rest of it, right? My belief, these are the most important subjects that there are, which aren't being discussed in Parliament, but are the most important,
Yes.
right, without a doubt. And I think they're wanting to keep the lid on people like you, like me, and perhaps this is a warning shot for other people in that huge organisation, that anyone who follows your example, you'll lose your job. So it's, I think they've been trying to counter people who believe in these subjects, not believe in these subjects, people who question the official line. They've been trying to counter those type of people in mainstream media, and I don't think they're happy with the fact that this movement is building.
Yeah.
And so they're taking direct measures against people like you. Perhaps this is what do you think to that?
I think their motivation, it's hard to speculate on their motivation, but I think one of them is probably what you're saying. They want to make an example of me. They want to pillory me for other people within the organisation organisation to see. And they're saying, look, if you shout too loudly about these subjects, you're in trouble. Now, you can talk about them if you want privately, but once you start going out there publicly and expressing them, we don't like it. And we're not going to... There's no official policy for this. It's done quietly behind the scenes. It's a secret policy. Another motivation is, of course, just to try and make my life a misery. Mm-hmm. And this is what they do to other people. I mean, the people who I have spoken out on things such as 9/11 or the institutional abuse of children and similar subjects tend to receive harassments from many different facets of their life, from many different authorities, various different... It's almost a case of trying to keep the pressure up on them and make as much stress as possible in their lives. Mm-hmm. And that could be another motivation, simply to make my life different, to shock me. Which they did shock me. They did upset me, and of course now I've lost my job. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I have, as I've explained on the blog recently, I have another job. I'm doing self-employed house cleaning.
So you're piecing your life back together after 20-odd years of being a hospital porter. You found some new employment. What would your message be, Ben?
My message to people watching this is it might be you next. People who express views of this nature are often targeted for harassment in their employment, in their personal lives, in their professional lives, in their home lives, in various different ways. And it's important that you are aware of this and you keep in touch with other people and we stick together on this. Mm-hmm. Because we can get together, we can support each other, we can look after each other and give each other counselling and comfort. But also, when we present a united front of all these different people who have experienced the same problems, for saying the same things in the media, then it makes the cries of coincidence echo more and more hollow. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind, even though I have no direct evidence at all that I was set up, there's no doubt at all in my mind that I was set up. The circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to go down quietly, and I'm not going to shut up.
Right. Good. Well, Ben, I mean, we did discuss possibly, I'm considering starting a little magazine to go with this show, and Ben and I have been talking, because obviously Ben's got a bit more time on his hands now, I think, because you're only working part-time at the moment, is that right? So Ben, considering putting a little magazine together, the Rich Planet TV magazine, which would inform people of who's going to be on the show, interviews with guest articles, etc. So Ben's considering perhaps joining with me in writing for such a publication. Now you've got an appeal hearing coming up, Ben, which is like another chance to try and get your job back. And tell me about that. The appeal hearing, I have an appeal hearing I've got to attend, although I can't possibly win it. What I want to do, basically... So that's a very negative attitude, Ben. Why can't you possibly win it?
Because, unfortunately, I mean, all I can do is present the same case I presented before, and ask them to reconsider it.
There's no circumstances you're going to change your website, yeah?
No, and I'm sticking by my decision. I still think it was the right decision. Okay. I don't think if I backpedal now it will get me anywhere, even if I wanted to. What I want to do basically is get the appeal hearing out of the way, so I can then go to a solicitor and maybe seek legal advice about an industrial tribunal. Yeah.
If you've been unfairly dismissed, well, if you've been in hospital port for 22 years, you would have a big claim there.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Ben. Well, good luck with that, and good luck with whatever projects you take on in the future. And I hope your blog website goes from strength to strength. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Richard.
And it just remains for me to say, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.